Hello, my name is Rickard, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you the new features in the July update for Photoshop 2024. Just last week, Adobe released a mid-year update to Adobe Photoshop 2024 with 5 new features. Now, one of these gives you a lot of added functionality inside of Photoshop. That is the Generate Image feature. We're going to cover that one first, and then I'll show you 4 other updates that have also been done to the program, including 2 brand new tools. So let's dive into Photoshop. All right, let's create a new file here. I'm going to make this 2000 by 2000 pixels. And the first new feature is Generate Image. So with Generate Image, Photoshop has basically incorporated some of the functionality of Adobe Firefly straight into Photoshop. So here you can generate an image. And essentially you can pick a source inspiration image and it'll preload the prompt, content type, and effects based on which one you select. So let's go ahead and select one of these. I'm going to grab this one here, and it now puts lemon water, fresh splash, blue backdrop, hyper realistic. It's selected photo, and under effects it's selected cinematic. Let's go ahead and click generate. And there you can see what it has generated. And then here you can iterate on it. So if I wanted this to be lemon in water, and we can generate again. And let's use this one. And I want to kind of create a composite where this lemon is turning into a fish. So I want to create another generation, but I want that one to be a fish. Now, if I make any changes here, it's going to reiterate on this image. In order to do a new generate image, what I'm going to do is create a new layer here. And if I select my whole canvas, this is going to be generative fill. And generative fill and generate image are not the same. So in order to generate image, you're going to go to the bottom of your toolbar and you'll see this new little feature here, generate image, or you can go to edit, generate image, and that'll bring up your prompt. I'm going to select the same reference image one more time. So we'll scroll down here. There it is. All right, so same prompt here, but I'm going to change this to fish, single fish, in water, let's say in aquarium, fresh. We're going to get rid of the splash, blue backdrop, hyper realistic, and let's hit generate. And none of these are quite colorful enough, so maybe let's say single colorful fish and aquarium, and click generate one more time. And I like this one, so let's go to our object selection tool, select the fish, and then I'm going to do Command J to put the fish on its own layer. Go ahead and throw away the thing. We'll call this fish. I don't need this extra layer 1. And now what I want to do is make this fish be turning into this lemon. So it's going to be a lemon fish. So I'm going to do Command T for transform. I can also click on this icon in the taskbar. I can then flip it horizontally and then kind of shape it to the shape of this lemon. So something like this, and maybe I could take the opacity down a bit, go into my warp function here, and then warp it to be a little bit better matched to my lemon shape. Something like this. That looks pretty good. All right, let's take the opacity back to 100, and I want this to be the yellow color here. So let's try maybe just using a color. So I'm going to go to my eyedropper tool. Here, select this yellow color. Actually, let me select a deeper yellow color here. And then I'll just add a solid color, clip that to the fish and put this on color. And here I want some of the original color to show through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click so that I bring up my blending options and then just kind of play with these. Maybe the underlying shadow, kind of hold option there so some of those underlying colors are showing through like this. All right, and then I can add a mask to the fish, and with a soft brush and with black, I'm just going to paint away some of this fish to show the lemon underneath. And here I'm just hitting X to alternate between erasing my mask and adding to my mask. And there you go. Now I have a lemon fish. And I obviously could do more to this, but essentially what I wanted to show you here is that without using any stock or any other image, just using the generate image inside of Photoshop, I can create this composite image. So that's using generate image. There's a couple other things I want to show you. One is the reference image. So for this, let me go ahead and put these in a folder with Command G. I'll just turn that off for now, and then I'll go back into here. And I want to create a 3D letter R on a plain cyan background. And for this, let's look for something that looks 3D generated. So this one right here. Okay, so it's just art. And let's go ahead and type in that prompt again. 3D letter R on a cyan background. Art. Under effects, I'm going to select 3D. And then for reference image, I'm going to click here and choose my own image. And in the assets, there's this Tethostock. I'm going to load that, and it's now loaded this. So essentially, this should give me a letter R on a cyan background, but in this kind of style. So let's hit generate. And you can see it's done a relatively good job, although I think it could be even closer. So maybe let's do 3D glass or 3D rendered glass letter R on a cyan background. And let's hit generate. And there you can see we're now getting something pretty close to our reference. Now I did mention that with this generate image, a lot of the Adobe Firefly functionality has been built into Photoshop. However, there is one crucial aspect of Adobe Firefly that has not yet been incorporated into this tool, and that's the ability to upload your own structure or composite image. And let's just flip over to Firefly, and we'll use this same prompt. So let's put that prompt in, hit generate, and I'll also put in the same reference image. Now you'll see here that there's a composition reference and a style reference. Now in Photoshop, we have this style reference. So if I load this style reference and then hit generate, you'll see that it, closely approximates my style reference. And I can increase the visual strength of this as well. But there you can see it's doing a good job. Now the problem with these is that you can tell this is 3D generated because no artist or typographer or font designer in their right mind would ever design an R to look like this, right? You wouldn't have a straight part here and then serifs here. You wouldn't have a serif here but no serif here. These things just don't make sense. So that's where this composition reference comes into play. And if we grab this Firefly structure and then just increase the strength of that, then hit generate, now what it's doing is it's using this as a reference for the composition and then this as a reference for the style. And you'll see that the results are now this typographic nice R, but using the 3D style of our reference image. So within Photoshop, we do have the reference image for the style, but we do not have the reference image for the composite or composition. And I hope that's something that Photoshop incorporates in the future. Another thing that I'd like to see them add to this tool in the future is when you're selecting your image, rather than selecting an external image, you should also be able to select a layer or your current composite. That way it could use that as a reference, especially if you're building additional elements into your composite, you want it to use your existing composite as a style reference. So that's something I hope that Photoshop does in the future. But there you can see the basics of this tool. If you go back in here, you can explore all these other styles. Under effects, you can look at all the various features that you have here. If you've used Adobe Firefly, you'll probably be familiar with these and maybe even have some of your favorites already. But that is the generate image. The one other thing I wanted to show you here is how you can use this in one of your photos, as opposed to what I've shown you so far, which is generating images entirely within Photoshop. So let's go to File, Open, and I'm going to open this first file in here from Unsplash, Omid Armin. Let's go ahead and open that. And what I want to do is I want to add a gum bubble, like she's blowing a gum bubble. So here, let's add a gum bubble, and we want it to be about this big. And I'm going to show you kind of the difference between the results you're going to get with generative fill compared to the much better results that you're going to get from generate image. So first, let's do a generative fill, and we're going to do gum bubble photo realistic cyan colored, and let's hit generate. So as you can see, this looks more like a soap bubble, kind of creating weird distortions in her face. It just doesn't look very good. But let's take this exact prompt. Let's go ahead and turn this off, and let's go into the generate image. I'm going to put this here. Now, actually, before I even paste this, let me cut it. I'm going to look for an image that's somewhat similar to our image. So it should be photorealistic. If it can feature a woman like this, even better. So maybe this one here. So young woman, close up, bokeh, headshot, glamour, portrait, white dress. I don't need the white dress, and I don't need the long hair. Maybe I'll change it from sheepish to cheeky smile, and then get rid of the flower crown. I'll leave golden in there because that seems to be creating that nice lighting. And then after young woman, I'll say blowing a gum bubble. We're going to leave this on photo, and then under effects, I might just add a cinematic here and then hit generate. And you can see these actually look like gum bubbles, not soap bubbles. I don't like the shallow depth of field. So maybe what I'm going to do here is get rid of the bokeh. And we'll leave golden and then add sharp. And then hit generate one more time. This one's quite cool. So I'm liking the direction of these. I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time, see if we can get a nicer result. And I kind of like this one. I like the shadows on there. I like the subtle hint of a mouth inside. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this bubble and use it in our composite. So for this, I can just use my elliptical marquee, go ahead and select this. And what I'll probably do, because I don't want it to be a perfect circle, is just go here and do transform selection, and then just make it slightly not a perfect circle. And then I'm going to do Command C and Command V, and then we can take this, kind of transform it a bit, something like that. And then just to make it match up with this image better, what I'm going to do is add a curve to it, clip that curve to just this layer, and then add some cyan with my red curve. And then maybe also just add a little more darkness to it. And should also probably be a little more darkness on this side. So to do that, I can add one more curve layer to it, clip this, make it darker, and then on the mask, I'll just go to my gradient tool. I want this on classic gradient, and I want foreground to transparent. Then I'll just brighten up this side. So something like that. And then maybe just to finish it off, we can add a drop shadow. So I'll go ahead and command click on that layer to select the transparency, go underneath it and add a curve. Make this curve just a little darker. Move the mask over to the right just a little bit. Go under the mask properties and add a whole bunch of feather to that. And then again with my gradient tool, just get rid of that at the bottom. So something like that. And there you can see how you can use this to add elements or add assets to your photographs or to the composite you're working on, rather than going out and hunting for stock. Now, oftentimes you will find that stock is more photorealistic. So depending on what you're doing, you may still want to go to Unsplash Pixels or even a paid stock photography site. However, for quick things like this, using that generate image is often a good alternative to build the assets that you need for your photos. So that is the new generate image feature. The next feature I want to show you is the selection brush tool. So let's go to File Open and go ahead and open this Lance Reese file, the second one. And here, if you go to your lasso, you'll find that this selection brush tool has been added. And what this allows you to do is paint directly in your image, and this paint that I'm painting here will turn into a selection. So here, if I now want to add a mask, I go to curves, you'll notice that this has been added to my mask. Or if I go back and let's make a big brush like this, if I wanted to now use a generative fill, it's going to use that pink area as my selection. And if you've used Photoshop before, these are all horrible. Let's go ahead and throw that away. But if you've used Photoshop before, you might be wondering what's the difference between this and the quick mask tool. And really, the only difference is that with this tool, you are skipping the single letter shortcut of Q, and instead you're just going straight into a quick mask. But really, functionality wise, it's no different. And if anything, I would say fully understanding how to use the quick mask is still much better because you have far more functionality. For example, if I want to add some feathering to this selection, there's no way for me to do that within this tool. However, if I, let's go to a normal selection and deselect, if I hit Q on my keyboard and now paint this area, and now I want to feather this, well, I can just go to blur, Gaussian blur. I can use my Gaussian blur here to add some feathering. You can see that that's adding feather. And then when I hit Q again, that's baked into my selection. So with quick mask, you actually have a lot more functionality than with the selection brush. You could think of the selection brush as almost a sloppy version of the lasso, or just a version of the lasso where you have control using the normal Photoshop shortcuts of your size and your feather. In my opinion, I think just understanding and using the quick mask is a better option than using the selection brush tool. And I'll probably not have that selection brush in my tools bar. Just because I use the lasso a lot. If I want to make a selection, I'll just use the lasso rather than this, which does exactly the same thing. So that's the selection brush tool. The next thing I want to show you is the adjustment brush tool. So let's go to File, Open, and I'm going to open this other Lance Reese file. And with the adjustment brush tool, which you'll find here, it shares the brush shortcut B. So if you toggle through your brushes, one of your brushes will be the adjustment brush tool. And essentially what the adjustment brush tool does is it creates a shortcut between making a mask and adding adjustment layer. So rather than adding an adjustment layer, and then, if I went to curves, for example, and then painting on the mask, what it's doing is it's doing that step for you. Whether that's a good workflow for you or not is something you have to decide. In my opinion, I have better control and I know more what I want to do if just doing it the old-fashioned way. So, but let me show you. I've got the tool selected here. I have this set to curves, and I'm going to paint into her eye here and into this eye. And you can see it's added a curve with a default brightness to it. This default you cannot change. So that's already one kind of drawback of using this tool. And then it's just added a normal mask to that adjustment layer. So now I need to come in here and adjust this. You can see it's added a curve to every channel. So really your best bet is to just reset this and then add your own curve how you want it. So maybe something like that. So that's the adjustment brush tool. Once you're on this, you can continue painting and add more to your mask. If you hold down Option, it gives you the eyedropper. It does not switch to the minus tool. In order to switch to the minus tool, you have to hit X on your keyboard, just as if you're regularly painting on a mask. So with X, I can now get rid of things that are in the selection, hit X again. That'll put me on adding to my mask, adding that curve to other places of the image, X to remove. So that's that. Essentially what it's doing is adding an adjustment layer and then letting you paint on the mask. I could do exactly the same thing by going here, curves, holding option, going here, curves, inverting my mask, and then painting with a normal paintbrush on my mask, and then doing the adjustment how I want. So this is giving me exactly the same result, but it just takes one extra step of having to add the adjustment layer. So that's the adjustment brush tool. The next thing is the addition of bullets and numbers. So let me show you that real quick. And to show you that, let's go ahead and just add a solid color here. And we'll make this kind of a dark brown, kind of autumn color, and then just take the opacity down. And here I want to add a list of items. So let's go to our type tool. I'm going to make my text white, good, and then just type here and we'll say things to do this fall, vacation, buy pumpkins, and dress up for Halloween. Is that how you spell Halloween? Okay, so if I open up my paragraph palette here, you're going to see the addition of bullets and numbering. So I can select these three and add bullets, and you can see those are bullets, or I can add numbers. Now here under paragraph, you just have the option of bullets and numbering. However, if you go to your properties, you will see you have a few more options. So under bullets, I can change my bullet type to a dash, a hollow bullet, or a square. And for numbers, I can change it from numbers to ABCs, lowercase ABCs, Roman numerals, lowercase Roman numerals, with a 0 in the front and with 2 zeros in the front. Unfortunately, I don't have many options beyond that, meaning I cannot add paragraph spacing or anything like that to it. Let's see if you can see here that by default, these go on the same level, but I can't adjust the space between the number and this. So when you're doing typography, if you want more of control, you're better off doing your typography in InDesign or Illustrator. However, this does give you the ability to, if you're doing type in Photoshop, to do bullets and numbering. So that's a new feature in this new version of Photoshop. You now have bullets and numbering. All right, a few other smaller changes that they've done is within your adjustment presets. So if we go to our adjustments here, they've added the single adjustments to the top here. So if you want to add a single adjustment, you can do that here. And also there was some problems with the presets not really working. Especially the presets you added for yourself. So quite a few of these, they weren't working before. There was some bugs with them. It seems like they've now fixed those and all these work again. And I'll include a link to all these Nucly presets where you can purchase them in the description of this video. But with that bug solved, you can now use all these. And the way these work is when you click on them, it adds a folder with adjustment presets built in here, and you can make adjustments to these. So you can kind of preview what your preset looks like, and then you can directly apply it to your image and make any adjustments. And then finally, the other thing that they did do is within the contextual taskbar down here, they've made some changes, basically added a few additional tools to it. So if I have, let's say, a layer selected with some transparency, you now see the transform. Within transform, I've got some flip features now. And if I'm doing a shape or have a shape tool selected, you'll see additional features in the contextual taskbar that previously you'd have to go to your properties or your options bar to access. So if your workflow heavily utilizes the contextual taskbar to, adjust features of what you're working on, this will probably be a nice upgrade to the user interface. Personally, I still am kind of used to using the options bar, so for me it doesn't make a big difference. I don't really use the contextual taskbar for much except generative fill. So there you have it. Those are the new features in Adobe Photoshop 2024, and hopefully in this tutorial you'll learn some tips, tricks, and techniques that you can use in your own projects. Now, if you're interested in learning Photoshop, learning compositing, photo retouching, and much more, check out Nucly.com. I sell professional training and professional tools for Photoshop. Also, in 2 weeks, I am opening registration to my Nucly Academy. This is our exclusive Photoshop compositing community where you get access to all my courses, all my asset packs, which is more than 3,500 individual assets. As well, we do twice a month live online meetups where I go through your designs, we go through various functions in Photoshop, we deep dive into various artistic techniques, and at the end we have a live Q&A where I answer all your questions. So if that sounds interesting to you, check out the link below and get onto the waitlist. I'll let you know as soon as registration opens. Otherwise, here's some other tutorials that you can check out, and I will see you next time.